All right. You know what? We actually have like a few questions on the muster that people asked. One of them was, why should I come to the muster? What do you think?
Why should you come to the muster?
By the way, the muster, in case you don't know, the muster is a leadership event. Is it seminar?
Gathering.
Gathering. Oh, okay. I like it.
A gathering
we'll go with that.
of leaders.
So the muster is a leadership gathering where we get together and we talk about leadership, and we have them twice a. Well, this one we're having twice a year. But anyways, why should someone come to the muster? What do you think?
What I love about the muster is, well, you have to understand, like, we talk to hundreds of, we've actually we talked to thousands of leaders over the last 6 years that we've had this company, Echelon Front. Worked with hundreds of companies in about every industry you can imagine. And we speak at a lot of leadership conferences. We speak at them all the time. And there is nothing like the muster. There just isn't anything out there like the muster. Nothing even comes close. And the reason I love it, I mean, I just get super excited to be there and be a part of that stuff. And I even use words like magical to describe it on previous podcasts, which I took some heavies for. Took a lot of heavies for out there.
It was pretty magical, I guess.
There were some pretty good like Disney
memes.
Yeah, Disney memes going there. That was pretty good. But the reason the muster is so amazing is it's just different from anything else that we do. And I think when I think about what really makes the muster different, it's the people that are there. It's the content that we're talking about, and it's the impact that it has. And, you know, so who comes to the muster? The reason that's so awesome is that there are leaders from all over the place. And these leaders are hell-bent on dominating their universe. I mean, these are people that are there. They're in the game. And they're from every type of business, every type of industry. I mean, we have entrepreneurs. We have senior executives from major companies. We have mid-level managers. We have frontline leaders. And we have people who really aren't even in a leadership position, maybe with no direct reports, but are aspiring to be that way and grow and learn. We get police and firefighters and other law enforcement officers, members of the military. I mean, they're serving out there on our front lines of the home front and abroad. And these are the most committed people I've ever met.
You know, it's one way to quantify this, or when we're at the muster, the hotel staff will come up and they'll be like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because, for instance, the doors to open to actually get in the morning of the muster, they open at 8 o'clock, right? Or I guess 7:15 or 7:45, because it starts at 8. 7:45, the doors open up. And like you said, we go to these conferences all the time. Everyone's listening to some kind of conference, and it's, you know, people are meandering around and they're showing up late. They don't really care. At the muster, it's like the doors open at 7:45. Everyone's out in the hallway, and we're out in the hallway hanging out with everyone at, 7 o'clock. And that's after we do a 4:45 PT in the morning. We do a little get some. And that's another thing. Like the hotel people, we're clearing it with the hotel. We're just letting them know, like, hey, there's going to be a large gathering of people in front of the hotel in the morning. And they're like, well, what time? And we're like, 4:45. And they say, well, like how many people? And we're like, well, there's 450 people here, so there's going to be about 450 people here. And sure enough, there it is. And that's what the whole muster's like. Oh, we say, hey, we're going to restart in 10 minutes, and everyone goes out and they come back in 10 minutes. Everyone's seated, ready to rock and roll. So it's funny to heir that from an outside perspective, because we're in it, but the hotel people always make comments about, they say, hey, we never, Guy will say, hey, I've been running conferences here for 22 years. I've never seen a group of people like this. So that to me shows you what kind of people show up at the muster. When
the doors open, it's just bum rush in there. Everyone wants to be in that front row, and be there engaged, so they can and not just so they can, so they can actually ask questions, so they can actually engage with us, and that's what I love about those folks. I mean, they're not there to feel good about themselves, right? They're there to take a hard look in the mirror and learn and grow and get better, and so they can better and be more effective leaders, so they can lead and win in their teams, whatever they happen to be doing.
Now, so you just kind of talked about the other question was who comes to the muster, and it's really every different type of leader. Another question that we got about the muster is, what do we talk about at the muster?
That's the other piece that I really like about it is content, right? It's content that we talk about, and of course, I love telling war stories, as you all know from listening to this podcast. We like talking about war stories. We like talking about our time in the teams, and even when you put that photo up there of of us and Ramadi from back in the day, and it just brings back great memories. I mean, those will always be some of the absolute best times of my life. Certainly some of the worst times of my life as well, but mostly some of the absolute best times of my life, and so we get to talk about that, but not just in a way that's a cool story, but it has impact. And I think taking the combat leadership lessons that we talk about from extreme ownership and applying them directly to to people's lives and what they do and how to overcome their challenges. That's what it's about. It's super engaging. And for us, for me and Jocko, this isn't the standard leadership conference where there's like 40 different speakers and the main folks kind of get up there and spend a few hours. I mean, we're there the whole time, and we're there to engage with leaders. It's me, it's Jocko, it's Dave Burke, it's JP Donnell from our Echelon Front team. We're there. We're the guys on stage, and even during the breaks, we're talking to leaders that are coming up and asking questions. We're engaging with them.
No green room
in Q&A.
No green room.
There isn't a green room. There isn't someplace we're hiding behind the curtain.
There isn't somewhere in the back where Leif is getting cucumbers put on his eyes. Take a load off, sir.
Sipping my Jocko white tea with pinky up. Look, and that's these folks are there to get their questions answered and to ask hard questions.
The thing that we really get granular on a lot, and that's what it is. You're taking, like, you understand the principles. It's like learning a jiu-jitsu move from one person, and they teach you a fundamental basic move, and you're like, oh, okay, I understand that, and then compared to, okay, now you're going to get a private lesson. Like, that's like in a class, right? Hey, this is the arm lock. Then you get a private lesson with someone that goes in and adapts the technique to your body style, to the opponents that you're facing, the adjustments that you need to make. That's the kind of granularity we get, because the more you see these different angles. And the other great thing is, because with all these different people that you got there, and we do group exercises where now you're sitting down, and we purposely don't want people to sit with industries that they already work with. So in one group, you'll get a CEO, you'll get a firefighter, you'll get a startup business owner, you'll get a mid-level manager, and you'll get some regular corporate EVP, and they'll all be sitting at the same table. And we'll give them a problem, we'll give them a task, and they'll come up with a solution, and they'll relate it to how it affects their lives and their business. And when you see stuff from different angles like that, and you're all applying, we're all speaking the same language, because everyone there has obviously read the book. Everyone understands fundamentally what the principles are, but now we're getting to see how they impact people's businesses and lives and leadership roles from all these different perspectives, and it just makes you that much better. That's why during these exercises, like, I'll say, okay, I'm going to float around to these different tables and listen. But the first table I'll get to, I'll be like, oh man, these guys I'm sitting there learning. Because you got, like I said, you got a firefighter that's explaining to a CEO what you do in a situation where your team has decided that they're not going to follow this procedure anymore. And they have good reason why they don't want to. Like, it's one thing when your team doesn't follow the procedure and you say, hey, you got to follow this procedure. And they say, well, why? And you say, you explain it to them, and they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. But what about when you tell them to follow the procedure and they have a reason that actually makes sense? Then what are you going to do? Well, that's what you learn at the muster. That's where you make the progress. So that's good. One last question that we got about the muster is, what kind of impact do you see from people that have been to the muster?
The impact is obvious in that the number of people who are there that are talking about how they just got promoted, or they just got put in this position of greater responsibility and authority on their teams, or they've been recognized for their exceptional performance, or the folks who've come back from that and we hear about it on social media or reach out to us via email, or come back to a muster to talk about that from what they what had happened to them previously. The number of leaders who come and see what we're doing and bring their teams. That's what's pretty awesome too. I mean, that to me, when a CEO from a company comes, checks out what we're doing, and brings 25 of his team members back to be a part of that, because he recognizes the impact that can have to his team and will have, and it's awesome to see that. I mean, these are the most again, the most committed people you could ever be around. And they leave there with the knowledge to directly apply things, to solve problems. And they learn from us. They learn from each other, just as you said. And part of that, too, I think, is the recognition that these kinds of problems that I'm having are not unique to me. They're not unique to the market that I'm in. They're not unique to my industry, but they're leadership problems, and they apply everywhere. And I'm trying to get a diverse group of people to focus their efforts to and mutually support one another, accomplish a mission just like everybody else in every other industry. In the business world, as a first responder, the military, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, and these same techniques apply everywhere. And it's just that's why it's awesome. I love the muster, and I can't wait. I can't wait to meet those folks, and that's why so many people come back again and again and again. And it's just an awesome event. It's the best thing that we're a part of. And frankly, if you don't want to have that good look in the mirror, that hard look in the mirror at yourself, and answer some tough questions about where you can do better, you probably shouldn't come, because it's not for you. It's for people who are eager to destroy their competition and dominate the universe. And that starts with looking at themselves and taking ownership and solving problems so they can win.
Yeah. It's interesting, because if you think about it, and I was talking about this yesterday, like every problem that you have in an organization is going to be solved by leadership. That's it. That's what it's going to get solved by. Every problem that is in an organization is going to be solved by leadership. I don't care if it's because you're missing numbers. I don't care if you got bad process. I don't care if you got the wrong people in the wrong positions. All those problems are all about leadership, because if you got a bad process, there's a leader that's allowing that process to be in place. If you've got bad people, then there's a leader that's not either training those people or getting rid of those people. And if your P&L is upside down, there's a leader that is not paying attention to the numbers. So all these problems are going to be leadership problems. So if you want to improve your business, well, then what you need to do is improve your leadership. Now, I will say this as well. I just got to make like a little caveat here, because you just talked about the value of it. If you're out there in the world and you can't afford to come to the muster, which I understand, the muster is expensive. It costs us a lot to put it together. I had somebody hit me up like, hey, it sounds like you care more about making money. I was like, no, we definitely want to make money. That's what we are a business, and we need to make money, and we need to pay our team. And so, yeah, we're going to make money, and the muster is expensive. It costs a lot of money. If you can't afford to come to the muster, don't come to the muster. If you can't, don't go out and borrow money to come to the muster. No, you're not, don't skip a mortgage payment so you can come to the muster. That's not a good idea. What you do is you implement some financial discipline, you start saving money, you put it together, and you can come to the next muster. By the way, if you can't afford the muster, you can get a book called Extreme Ownership. It costs $16.97 on Amazon. That's fine. This podcast is free. There's 400 something hours of us talking about this kind of thing. So you can do that. Like I said, if you can come to the muster, that's when you're going to get basically a private jiu-jitsu lesson. You're going to learn really granular things. You're going to get the interaction face-to-face. You're going to get to ask the specific questions about your world, and you're going to interact with people that are on the same path as you. That's awesome. If you can come. We'll see you at the muster.
That no green room thing, and we've talked about that before, but that's a big deal. That's a bigger deal than it might seem, because you know how you said, like, okay, you have a Q&A part, or like you have a specific question, like, hey, that was cool what you just said, but what about like some people have questions. So during the break, when most times, like at these conventions or whatever, they got the people, they'll say what they have to say, and then they'll go and they'll disappear. Yeah. Straight up disappear.
They're going to get cucumbers on their eyes.
Yeah, whatever, grapes, whatever. And but here it's like people are like, hey, that question that I had, now I can go run and go grab Leif or Jocko, whatever, and ask it, like, personally.
Yeah. When during the break, Leif and I were on stage.
Yeah.
The break, we say, okay, take a break, come back in 12 minutes. We step down off the stage and we stand right there. Yeah. And people just come and ask us more questions, and we continue talking. And sometimes somebody asks such a good question that we're like, bring it back, and we'll get back on stage and say, hey, someone just asked this question. Yeah. Here's the question. It's a great question.
Yeah.
It's
the whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time. Yeah. Even the kind and this would happen to me a lot for some reason. They think I know. Well, I guess I kind of know a little bit.
They come and asking you the leadership questions.
Like in the hallway.
That goes in the game.
Like in the hallway, So
and he's like, the best thing to do in that situation is you want to just kind of cruise a little bit.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's one of the other primaries to come to the muster. Is Echo Charles is going to be there, and one of these days we're going to get you on stage for a keynote presentation.
Sure,
and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
you're going to be right in your comfort zone.
Getting flanked. All right, moving on.